What up, Patriots? I am in a great mood today. Why, you may ask? Well, of course, because Joy Reid got fired from MSNBC. Now, I'm sure many of you know her, but for those of you who don't, she's this very insufferable black woman on MSNBC, or was actually on MSNBC, or as I like to call it, MSDNC, who is very far left, very annoying. Everything with her was about race, white this, white that, black this, black that, pink, purple, yellow, whatever. She's always got to complain about something. And I, for one, am just so happy to see her go. I am sick and tired of these people. She just sits there complaining about oppression, and she's making, I don't know, millions, maybe even tens of millions a year. It's just like, just shut up already. Nobody wants to hear it. This country is so good to you, and all you do is complain about it. Why don't you just go move to a country that isn't majority white? You see, they're never going to do that. Yet for some reason, they want to make America not a majority white country. How does that make any sense? I don't know. But we're going to get right into it, folks. It's going to be fun. Do me a big favor, like our video and share it around so we can keep bringing you all this great, hard-hitting content. And as always, everybody, I'm your host, Arian, and this is Resist the Mainstream. And guys, what better way is there to celebrate Joy Reid's firing than to watch the great Matt Walsh give a reaction? Check this out.
But there are two other far more significant reasons why I mourn the passing of Joy Reid's MSNBC show. For one thing, as somebody in the same industry, in media, I always took great comfort knowing that as long as Joy is on the air, I can never be the dumbest person in media. Now, granted, there are still dozens of people dumber than me, the entire rest of MSNBC's lineup, also CNN's entire lineup, most of the staff of the New York Times, the Washington Post, and so on. But Joy Reid was the bulwark. She was the last line of defense. She was the Alamo of stupidity. As long as a major cable network had a primetime nightly show hosted by somebody with the IQ of a crustacean, I knew that I was safe.
Roasted.
I would always be a genius in comparison to at least someone in this business. In fact, I could have half of my brain eaten by a parasitic amoeba, and I would still be at least 40 IQ points smarter than Joy Reid. And which maybe does that mean I'm attributing an 80 IQ to myself? Maybe. Still, I'd be smarter. The amoeba would also be smarter. Actually, a lot smarter because of all the brain it just ate. Do amoebas get smarter when they eat brains? Probably not. Do you lose half of your IQ by chopping off half your brain? Is that how it works? Also, probably not. These are very dumb things to say, but still not nearly as dumb as the things Joy said every single day on her show. And that is my point.
True.
Finally, Joy provided a special service to right-wing podcasters looking for content. On any slow news day, I always knew that I could just find a clip of Joy saying something humiliating and ridiculous, and I'd be okay. I mean, she was a wellspring of fatuous drivel. She was like one of those geysers at Yellowstone, except instead of spewing boiling hot water or whatever, she just spewed moronic nonsense. And just like those geysers, people would gather around and watch. Actually, nobody watched. That's why she was canceled. But they would watch right-wing podcasters play clips of her show and make fun of them. And now we've lost that. Now, granted, her dumbness was usually pretty boring and uninspired. 90% of her show was just stuff like this.
Begin our final sprint, having arrived at that point in the election season where basically we on this side of the TV screen have said all we can. We've laid out the stakes in this crucial election, where one side stands for freedom while the other meets the textbook definition of fascism, namely a far-right dictatorial regime like Hitler's Germany or Franco's Spain or Mussolini's Italy, but also white-ruled South Africa before Mandela and the black majority took control, or Vladimir Putin's Russia, Viktor Orban's Hungary, or Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela.
Ugh, she's just so annoying. Here's something about Franco that I learned kind of recently that, I don't know, I didn't know that, so I found it kind of interesting. He worked with the Pope at the time of the Catholic Church, and he actually went ahead and stopped the mass slaughtering of priests within the church that was going on, thanks to the socialists, right? Who are always framed, oh, the socialists, the liberals, oh, they were such good guys, oh, they were so nice, and the big meaty fascists came and started attacking them. Yeah, not exactly. All right, they were essentially doing, arguably, one could argue, was a genocide of Catholic clergy at the time. And nobody cared to stop it until Franco came into power. Fun little fact. Also, Orban, I mean, easily one of the best leaders in Eastern Europe, arguably. It's just ridiculous.
Today, that suppresses the rights of women and minorities uses the military to execute the whims of a strongman dictator, and controls and suppresses the press, education, the arts, rewrites history to suit a favored and dominant racial class, and foments extravagant corruption in order to enrich the dictator and his friends.
Wow, did you hear that? Apparently Trump is like Hitler. What a bold and provocative insight. Joy here is making the profoundly compelling point that Hitler was bad and Trump is also bad, which means that Trump is Hitler. The audience of MSNBC watching her 7 p.m. show that night, all three of them, hadn't heard anything like that since at least the 6 p.m. show or the 5 p.m. or any show during any hour on any day at any point over the past 10 years. So this was not terribly interesting. Though it is extremely dumb, it's far too routine to be entertaining, basically useless for me as content, which is what really matters here.
You know, both President Donald Trump and that orange mustache man who ruled over Germany during the 1940s also drank water. I think it's fair to say Donald Trump possesses many of the same characteristics as that man. You know, Donald Trump says he wants to make America great again. Well, Orange Mustache Man apparently said he wanted to make Germany great again. So, you know, much like that guy, they both believed in, or at least said they both believed in, making their country better. Well, all the similarities. They're all the same. In all seriousness, this is Godwin's law in full effect, all right? Which is to say that every discussion somehow inevitably can end up back to the Orange Mustache Man in Germany in the 1940s. It's so ridiculous. Americans can be so stupid with their comprehension of history, I have to say, and especially prominent leftists. It's bad.
But every once in a while, and often enough to provide a steady stream of content, Joy would reach heights of dumbness so extreme, so incredible as to be awe-inspiring, almost in a way beautiful. Sometimes Joy gave us moments like this.
The people I ever hear use the word inflation are journalists and economists, right? So that is not part of the normal lexicon of the way people talk. So it's interesting that Republicans are doing something they don't normally do, right? Which is not use the common tongue, right? Not use just common English to sort of do on their campaigns like they're doing with crime. But what they've done is they've taught people the word inflation, right? Yeah. Most people who would have never used that word ever in their lives are using it now because they've been taught it, including on TV, including in newspapers. They've been taught this word, and they sort of wrap this word around whatever it is that they really want to vote, the reasons they really want to.
What?
Now, this is what I'm talking about. It's mesmerizing. It's fascinating. It's grotesque. But you're transfixed as you watch it. You know, I saw a nature show over the weekend where two warthogs were fighting, and it was just ghastly and foul, but I couldn't take my eyes off of it. And that's what it's like watching Joy Reid try to form an actual thought. Her face contorts as she blurts out the words, hoping they make sense, but they don't. Her brain has atrophied from lack of use, and she's still trying to use it. You know, she claims here that the word inflation is not part of the normal lexicon, that average Americans who used the word during the campaign had just been taught it. They just learned it. They had never used the word inflation before. They had never heard of inflation. Only journalists and economists talked about inflation. So what did people call inflation before Republicans taught them the word in the year 2024? Like, what did they say when they were referring to the higher prices of goods and services? I guess she imagines that the average American was wandering dumbstruck around the supermarket, scratching his head, pointing to the ever-increasing price tags and grunting like a caveman. Me see price go up in sky like bird. Me not have enough dollars. Me not like. Me sad.
You know, it really shows just how arrogant Reid and other people in the left-wing media are where they think this kind of way. They really think the American people are that stupid that they don't know such a basic term. And it's really quite telling.
This is the conversation that Joy Reid imagines must have been occurring at Kroger prior to Republicans teaching everybody about inflation. And a lot of conservatives accuse Joy of being an elitist snob because of these comments. But what they don't understand is that Joy was extrapolating from her own experience. She was the one grunting at the grocery store. She just learned about inflation this past year. She's a grown woman, and in 2024, she's like, what is this inflation thing? What does that mean? Oh, that's inflation? Because she is, again, I must emphasize, very extremely dumb. And that's why she was such a great source of not only content, but also self-confidence to all of us who are smarter than her, which is a group that encompasses nearly every human on the planet above the age of 2 and probably half of the ones below 2.
She is very dumb. And you know what's really sad about that? She went to Harvard. Okay, yeah, you heard that right. Harvard, the apparently pinnacle of the peak, top Ivy League school. And she's still this stupid. You know she obviously got in because of affirmative action. Duh. And by the way, I knew that before it was confirmed. So lest somebody try to say, oh, that's so racist. How could you say that? How could you assume that? You big bad meanie. No, she actually wrote an article about it. All right. And specifically the first sentence of that article says, I would not have gotten into Harvard if it weren't for affirmative action. Or maybe it was, I got into Harvard because of affirmative action. Point is, she openly admitted as much herself. It's really quite hilarious.
And now Joy is gone. Or at least her show is. And we can only hope that she lands on her feet and finds somewhere else to spew her gibberish. The world is depending on her. I am, at least. So don't give up, Joy. My dear, sweet Joy. Keep going. Keep talking. Keep saying stuff on camera. Never stop. Don't listen to anyone who tries to dissuade you. Anyone who tells you to give up the media gig and get a job more befitting a woman of your intellect. Media already is that job, Joy. So don't listen to the haters and the doubters who insult and demean you. I mean, they're right, but don't listen to them because they are the ones who are today canceled.
Well, everybody, that wraps up our clip for today. What'd you think? I hope you liked it. Yeah, Joy Reid is super annoying. Can't say I'm going to miss her, but yeah, actually, maybe I will miss her a little bit, all right? It can be entertaining sometimes. So with all that being said, we hope you enjoyed the clip. Please be sure to comment below, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you all again soon. God bless.